Okay, folks, I am back after a little bit of a break. And I decided, I had a request from one of my subscribers down in Australia to make a American style keto meatloaf. So that is what I've got going on today. I'm just going to show you the first parts. We're going to start with the veggies here, and then I'll be back and I'm going to cut and clean up and then switch to the meat part because I don't like to get them mixed up. So anyway, we are going to start. So what I got on here heating up is I got my pan, I've got some butter in there. And what I got right here is I sort of got a mirepoix of vegetables that I'm going to cook up. I got some white onion, just a half a cup of white onion, half a cup of celery, and about a half a cup of a red bell pepper. And I'm going to put that in there, put a little salt on it, and cook it all down. And then I'm also going to add some tomato paste, some salt and pepper, some garlic salt. And I know a lot of this stuff like the onions and the bell peppers and the tomato sauce are not quite considered keto because of the carbs, but remember, this is for a whole meatloaf. It's not just for one piece, this is for the whole meatloaf. So unless you're eating the whole meatloaf, you're not going to be getting all them carbs. So per slice of this thing, I'm guessing there's maybe two to three carbs per slice, so it's not that much. So okay, I'm going to start cooking these down. I'll start putting the onions in here first. There we go. Onions. We got some celery. And the bell pepper. You can see that parsley there, but that's not going to be cooked. That's for adding into the meat later, just a little bit later. So right now I got that in there. Take a little bit of my kosher salt there. And just add a little bit because we're going to be adding it to the meat too. So just about a quarter of a teaspoon just to get some grindage and some stuff going on here. It'll help bring out the moisture. Bring that out, put that out of the way. Get my little stirring stick here. And you're going to cook this down and sweat it down until they are, well, comfort sweat and so much everything is translucent. It smells really good. You know, a lot of folks don't ask me why I don't put fresh garlic in there. Well, for a meatloaf, I just don't. I prefer the garlic powder, the granulated garlic. It's from Costco. I mean, it's got a really good garlic flavor, so I just don't put fresh garlic in my meatloaf. You could if you wanted to, but I prefer the granulated. Okay, so slip them down here. You want to let them cook down for just, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, we got everything here. It's been cooking for about 2 minutes, 2.5, 3 minutes. And so that's about all we want to cook it, because remember, it's going to be baked in the oven too, so they will continue cooking. So into that now, I'm going to be adding chicken stock. This is what I get from Costco. It's a nice chicken stock. I'm just going to add a half a cup in here. Half a cup of that, and that's going to continue cooking them. And into that, I'm going to add 1 good sized tablespoon of tomato paste. This is where most of the carbs come from, believe it or not, it's just tomato paste. I'm going to add that in there. And then we're going to add a little black pepper, about a teaspoon or to your taste if you don't like the black pepper. I like the black pepper. Some garlic powder. I'm actually going to add 3 teaspoons or a tablespoon of this in there because I like a garlicky flavor. You can add as much as you like. Go there. And we're going to add some Italian seasoning, about a teaspoon or so, as much as you like. Of course, this is all to taste. And the last thing is I've decided, instead of putting it into meat, this is going to be liquid, so it gets better emulsified in meat if you put the salt in the liquid itself. So I'm going to be using 2 pounds of meat, a pound of pork and a pound of beef. So technically you're supposed to put a teaspoon of salt per pound of meat. But since I've got the other stuff, there's going to be some flavors, chicken stock, I'm just going to put a teaspoon of salt, kosher salt. And then I'm going to shut the heat off on this and just mix it all up in there until everything is well combined. And then after it's all mixed up, we're going to set this aside to cool while we are mixing up the meat. So that is all there. Just a little bit more chicken stock. So about 3/4 of a cup. There we go, that's perfect. Sometimes you add it in there, but then we put the tomato paste in it, it will thicken it up, and we want it a little bit watery. So yeah, it's like a nice thick spaghetti sauce is what it looks like. Okay, now we're going to mix that, and we're going to set that aside to cool down. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to clean up this mess, and when we come back, I'll be showing you how I mix the meat. So stay tuned. Most of the ingredients in the bowl here, I'm just going to explain to you what it is. I have a pound of ground pork, nice fresh ground pork. I got a pound of ground beef, the fattiest I can find. And into that, I just took 1 egg, put it in my little container, sprinkle a little salt on there, and beat that egg up really good until it got really watery. And the salt helps do that. It breaks down the proteins in it and makes it really watery. And the reason we do that is because when we pour it in the meat, if it's just, you just crack the egg and throw it in there, it don't mix through the meat because it's really thick, and so it really don't mix into the meat and help it bind together. Since how this is keto style, there's no breadcrumbs in it, there's nothing like that, or oatmeal or crackers. A lot of people put different things in there to hold together. So we use that egg, and that is its purpose. So I got the egg in there, and I've got just a half a cup or a quarter cup of broadleaf Italian parsley. That's optional, you don't even have to put that in if you want to. But that is what I got in there, and then in there with that, I know it's very fatty, but I'm still going to add some extra oil. This is avocado oil. I'm going to put about a quarter cup of avocado oil in there. This is going to help it get moisture and bind it together as well. Because as it cooks, the fat in the meat's going to start breaking down and it's going to lose some of it. So you want to add extra in there. So you got plenty of fat in there to keep it moist, and we get our macros met. So I know a lot of people, they're going to be icky when I do this, but as you know, I use my manual food processors. You can use a stand mixer to mix it any way you want to, but I'm mixing with my hands. I try not to use a stand mixer as much as possible because I want to let people know that you can do this without the stand mixer. So here we go. And keep one of these handy for when you get through mixing it. You don't have to touch stuff with your hands when you wash your hands. So we're going to get the mixing. And it is meatloaf, and so you don't want to over mix it. And so when you got the oil and the egg in there mixed in pretty good, and the parsley, that's when we're going to add the stuff from our pan in there. And like I said, your hands are going to be a little bit messy, so watch what you touch. So I'm just touching the pan and the spoon, and we're just going to add that in there. This is cooled down. It might not be exactly room temperature, but close enough. And then we're just going to put this directly into the sink. Like I said, we're watching how many stuff we touch with our hands because it's got meat. So. And then we're going to give that all a good mix up until it's thoroughly combined with everybody. Oh, this smells fantastic. And how I cook it is I actually put it on a cookie sheet lined with foil directly on that sheet. I don't put it in a square pan or any kind of baking pan like that. And the reason being is it cooks faster, and so it spends less time in the oven rendering its fat out of there. And so when you just put it on the cookie sheet, it cooks all the way around it, and it's not sitting in that oil, and some of the stuff that comes out, it's not too appetizing anyway. And it cooks way faster, more evenly that way. Okay, and it's cooked uncovered. Mix that. And see, it looks like I'm mixing a lot, and usually you don't do that with the meatloaf because the more you mix it, the tougher it gets. But since we got all these nice moist ingredients, the oils, that little mirepoix sauce I made in the pan, it's all in there. This is a very soft, I ain't gonna say liquidy, but it's a very soft meat, and so we don't have that problem. So, okay. So now I'm going to let that set there now. Okay, so that's all mixed up. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my pan ready and let this set for 5 minutes or so to let it sort of combine and all the flavors get in before we put it in the oven. And meantime, we're going to put the oven to 375 and let that heat up, because we want to let it heat after it dings, says heat it for another 5-10 minutes. Make sure the oven's nice and hot. There's no cold spots anywhere in the oven. So let it heat up to temperature, and then 5 to 10 more minutes. That way your oven is nice and warm. Depending on your oven, your oven. Mine, in about 5 minutes after the little bell goes off, there's no more cold spots in there. So, okay, let that set. I get my pan ready, get my hands cleaned up, and I will be back. Okay, so we got the meat in our pan here. Like I said, it's just a flat cookie sheet, foil lined. I dumped the meat out in there, and now all we're gonna do is shape this into a nice loaf. Any shape you want it. I like to shape it no more than, about that thick. About 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. So as long as that is, or as short as that is, it don't make no difference. And you can use your hands, well, you actually hands to do this, but it's the easiest way to do it. But I know a lot of people, they use the like gloves, plastic latex gloves and stuff in the kitchen, but I don't do that. I just don't like putting that stuff in my food. It is very chemically processed and it's just not good. So, anyway, shape that little loaf there. And with the meat, if you want to, take the meat, you set it in the fridge, it's going to firm up a little bit more. But the problem with that, it will affect the cooking. Because if you put meat in the oven and the center's cold, the outside's not cold, then the outside's going to overcook, the inside's not going to cook enough. So you want to make sure it is a even temperature when you put it in there. Okay, I think that's going to do it for me. Don't want to overthink it too much. So there it is, folks. It's a nice little meatloaf. You can see the parsley on it, the little peppers. It's really pleasing to the eye. So stick that right back in there. And like I said, it's about 1.5 inches thick. And what we're going to do is, I got this in the oven. It's 375. I'm going to cook this until the internal temperature is 165. And then I'm going to take it out of the oven. I'm going to take some more foil. And remember, this is meat, so it needs to rest. And so after I take it out of the oven, I'm going to put tin foil over it and let it sit there and rest for a good 10-15 minutes before I cut into it. If not, it's not going to be juicy at all, because if you don't let it set and rest, the juices don't redistribute, because as they get hot, all the things come to the center, to the surface, and they want to run off. So by letting it rest with the foil over it, it sort of steams it and keeps the juices down, and it redistributes into the meatloaf. And it won't be that dry, horrible stuff that nobody likes to taste, that they always remember from eating at, I don't know, grandma's house or your mom's famous meatloaf or whatever it is. But anyway, I'm going to stick this in the oven till the temperature gets to 165. Bring it out, cover it, and let it sit. It usually takes, in my oven at 375, about 45 minutes. So when this is done, I'm going to come back, turn the camera on there. You won't be seeing me no more. You'll be seeing the nice, beautiful meatloaf. I'm going to slice it and let you show it how it looks. And tonight I'm going to serve it with some mashed cauliflower that I made up earlier, because I like to make that ahead of time. So my mashed cauliflower and some kind of other vegetable, probably a spinach or maybe some bok choy or something, who knows. But anyway, I will be back when it's all ready and presentable, and show you what it looks like. Okay folks, the meatloaf is done. I baked it at 375. It took about 25-30 minutes in my oven to cook it. And then I took the temperature, and at about 162, 63, I turned my oven on high on broil. I do that for like 3 minutes just to give the top a nice little brownish looking crust. And so that's what it looks like, folks. And then I took it out of the oven, set it on the stove, covered it with foil, and let it rest for 10 minutes. That way all the juices got redistributed through the meat. That way it's not dry out. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut up a couple slices and put on my plate for dinner. Here I got my version of a cauliflower mash. I don't even call it mashed potatoes because it's not potato. I mean, it tastes like potatoes. It feels like potatoes, but it's not. It is cauliflower. And I don't make it creamy like most people do, because I do not like drinking vegetables. And to me, creamed potatoes or creamed cauliflower is just drinking them. I like a little bite to it. So that's what that is. There's a little parsley, and I might do a video on that later if people are interested. But for now, let's cut into this meatloaf here and see what we got. So hopefully it's softer. The juices run. I'll cut the end piece off and then take some right out of the middle for you to get a better view of it. And I need to sharpen my knives, Alex. But as you can see there, inside is done. It's really juicy. You can see everything distributed through there. It's perfect meatloaf. I don't like it really tall slices, because we do that with this, it will fall apart. Because like I said, there's no breadcrumbs or crackers or oatmeal in there. And I believe I'll have me 2 pieces of that. And that is it's a fantastic meatloaf. And so what I'm going to do, I know I like the taste of it, and I know it's really good, but if I can con my cameraman Alex, who is non-keto, to take a little bite of it and to give us his honest opinion, that would be fantastic. Alex, you want to take a little bite of it and let me know what you think?
Sure.
Okay, I'll cut you a little piece here. There we go. You don't even have to be on camera. Just take it and eat it and tell me what you think. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. I spent 7 hours cooking this and it's pretty good. Would you like to try just a little taste of the cauliflower to give your opinion?
Not right now.
All right. Okay. So anyway, folks, that is it. That is my keto meatloaf. It's pretty quick and easy. There's no breadcrumbs, no crackers, nothing there. It's just the way it is. So for what was the username? My subscriber was Koala Down Under from Australia. Wanted me to do an American style meatloaf that was keto. So I'm not sure what that means, but if there is different styles of meatloaf, if you're from Australia or wherever you're from, if you got a different version of meatloaf, I would love to try it. So please send me the recipe and I'll even make it and put it on my channel and give you the credit for it or whatever. Or any recipes that you think I might like from different areas of the world, I'm more than willing to try them. So that is it, folks. Until next time, God bless and good eats.